This is part 7 in my series of finding all the original locations for the Karate Kid, which has been inspired by this new 10-part show, Cobra Kai, which I highly recommend you check out. And today we'll be talking about Mr. Miyagi's house. And here it was back in the original film in Karate Kid 1. And at this house, this is where Mr. Miyagi taught Danielson how to do a lot of chores like sanding, painting, and he actually taught him some karate too. He taught him how to stand properly. So this is the neighborhood, and as some of you might already know, the actual house that used to be there that they used for the movie was torn down, and it was torn down, guessing around 87, so 1987. So this is the neighborhood, as you see, and this is in Canoga Park. It's right off of DeSoto, and I'm on GAULT Street right now. So as I'm walking down, now that house right there that we're looking at, that's an original house. Those apartments next to it are not. Those are new also. So as we're walking down, there itself is where Mr. Miyagi's house used to be. And it was a big vacant lot. And this house, and I believe the house to the left of this house and the house to the right of this house was this whole big lot right here. And like I said, we're on GAULT Street. So let me stop this right here. We're on GAULT Street. Well, this house went back the whole block to the other street behind it, which was Vose Street. And they added, so that shot we just saw of the house, and this is Mr. Miyagi driving through the entrance where he crosses the railroad tracks and he crosses this oil refinery deal right here. This was all added, and this was coming from the Vose Street into the GAULT Street area where the house was located. Like I said, this was just all added for the film. So I found this. This is an actual historical aerial view from 1980. And so like I said, so right now where I'm at this part right here on GAULT Street. And the house that I said was original was this house right here across the street was an original. These apartments are brand new. This has been here. So they end up building 3 houses here, and then this stuff was here, and this stuff was here. So I'm standing here. The view you see is, so the house was built right here, and the view you see of him coming in where he crossed the railroad tracks was right here, and then he turns into the house. So for this movie, they probably cleared this stuff right here, and like I said, they added the railroad tracks where he crosses right here, and they add the oil refinery and all the drums and things like that. And like I said, this was from 1980. And that's what it looks like today. So this house, so the address is 20924 GAULT Street. And this house was built, like I said, it's a duplex. It's built like this house, and this house were built on Mr. Miyagi's plot. And it's amazing that this house is basically about 30 years old. And it doesn't really look as new as you think it would be, especially this fence. This fence is terrible. But I went through to give you a side view of it. And then over here, so there's the original house that was there before. These 2 houses were originally there. And here's the thing. So you saw the house I just showed you. Well, when you're in Miyagi's backyard and he's walking into his house, you see his back. Well, actually, this would be Mr. Miyagi's front of his house, but in his backyard, you see that house that's across the street that's still there. So you see right there, that was this part right here. So that's if you were in Miyagi's in his house looking out across the street. That's what was there, and it's still there today. And like I said, only this is new, and this was here too. So it's really a shame because it was a little beautiful house, but it was on a big plot of land. And they end up building 3 more houses from it, as you can see again from the aerial view. So it was a pretty decent sized land, and like I said, they had used all this area all the way up and back. So it was all this stuff, and so they built all this in right here. So there's homes here, and then there's the three duplexes they built here that are still there today. So I'm giving you an idea. So this is all the new apartments I talked about. This is the house that was still there that you see through the door. and then all this. I think they actually had some more stuff there. So as we're seeing, so I'm trying to give you more of the view of the place. And like I said, this went all the way back to the other street, to Bow Street. And I wondered about these palms. I wonder, because I didn't really recall seeing them in the movie. So were they planted? Did they grow that tall in 30 years? And if so, what height did they start? Do you think they'd do something about this fence? Now, as for that house, it was also used in Karate Kid 2, and Karate Kid 2 was made in 1985. So they used Miyagi's house that was there in Karate Kid 1 and Karate Kid 2, but then unfortunately it was torn down in like 1987. They built these three duplexes there. So when they made part 3 in 1989, they had to recreate the house because they no longer had the original house that was there, and that's where movie magic takes place, where these guys, the prop makers in this business, can replicate anything, which they often do. Is sometimes even if you have, this house there. So here's just another scene from the movie of the house. So even though you have that house there, they might build 2 or 3 different versions of it depending on what they need it for. If they had like a scene with the fire or some other type of damage, and so they build it ahead of time so it doesn't stop the production when they're filming. Yeah, so it's hard to believe that. I wonder if these people know that their house, their duplex, is on what used to be Mr. Miyagi's house. And like I said, I didn't see them, but I did see the neighbor across the street, and I talked to her, and she wasn't even aware about how they filmed Karate Kid there. So you got to keep in mind that was 34 years ago. So a lot of people, especially younger people, may not be totally aware of this movie. But maybe because of the Cobra Kai series, maybe they'll be re-interested and learn about it. So like I said, for part 3, the house was already torn down, but they needed it for the movie. So what they did, so look at this picture here. So this is from part 3. And this is the recreated house, which is amazing. But the one difference thing that stands out is this right here. This is a building, and this building wasn't in 1 and 2, but it's in part 3, and I'll show you why. So as you see, so here's the Warner Brother Ranch. Now, I work in the movie business myself. I've been in the movie business for 22 years. I worked on tons of movies, tons of TV shows, and I worked for Sony, Paramount Pictures, Warner Brothers, Cobra Studios, and now I'm working on Netflix shows. So this is I don't know when this picture, this aerial view picture was taken, but this wasn't here before. This parking lot wasn't here, but that building you just saw in the photo of the Karate Kid 3 from the movie was this building right here. And so they had built, this is the Warner Brother Ranch. So Warner Brothers, they have Warner Brothers, the main studio in Burbank, and then right down the street, like about 1 mile to 2 miles away, they have what's called the Warner Brother Ranch, where they have a couple other actual studios. And what they did here before they built this building and this parking area is that's where they had recreated Mr. Miyagi's house for Karate Kid 3 in 1989. And like I said, so that building that I just showed you that wasn't there in Karate Kid 1 and 2, that's this building right here. They weren't about to take this building out. So there's Mr. Miyagi's house, or what used to be Mr. Miyagi's house. And it's just, like I said, it's amazing that even though it's no longer in its original location, if they were to do another Karate Kid movie, then they can easily just recreate that house, and like they did for part 3. So go ahead and subscribe if you're not already subscribed, and leave some comments, questions, whatever you have down below, and I'll get back to as many as I can. And I hope you're enjoying this. This was part 7 of 12, and I will be uploading the rest, and I'll catch you guys in the next video.
MrYokiLoverFitness.com